the bell. Class is in session. The professor is on.
Lift me higher, Jehovah, lift me higher, higher, higher. Lift me higher to the next level, Lord. Jehovah, lift me higher, higher, higher. Lift me higher, lift me higher. Oh, yeah, no, man, the quick berenala. Chineke, idima, Chineke, idima. Oh, yeah, no, man, the quick berenala. Oh, yeah, no, man, the quick berenala. Chineke idima, Chineke idima, igwe, 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 igwe. Oye na me man ne quick beram nala. Chineke idima, igwe, igwe, idima, idima, idima.
Isaac 98.1, Trinidad and Tobago's #1 gospel station.
They say that men don't talk, but they are so wrong. Join me, Noel Professor Richards, and my co-host Huey Cuffie every Monday at 6:30 p.m. for Men Talk. We talk about how to live, how to love, and how to lead. So join with us as we talk about everything that men talk about on Men Talk. Mondays 6:30 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise.
You can now see the Men Talk team live on Facebook at Isaac the Promise and YouTube on FBN TV. Sponsored by Dr. Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady at Anaya Health and Wellness Center. Call 360-5166 or 478-7416.
Pornography. Why are so many people hooked on it, including Christian men? Are there any harmful effects from watching porn? Is there any hope for those who are addicted? How do we deal with it? This is the topic of discussion on Men Talk, Monday 16th August at 6:30 p.m. You're invited to join me, Noel Professor Richards, my co-host Huey Cuffie, George, and our guest Jerome Alexander of the global organization Fight the New Drug. Let's get the facts. Let's tackle the issue of porn addiction. It's Porn Talk on Men Talk, Monday 16th August, 6:30 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise.
You can now see the Men Talk team live on Facebook at Isaac the Promise and YouTube on FBN TV. Sponsored by Dr. Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady at Anaya Health and Wellness Center. Call 360-5166 or 478-7416.
To the men who feel like you're at your wits' end.
Well, it's 6:32. Good evening to you, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. And just in case you are new to this segment, or maybe, you're new. You're traveling on a Maxi or taxi, and you are hearing this for the very first time. Well, Men Talk really is a time that we have set aside every Monday at 6:30 p.m. where we talk. Yeah, we're Men Talk. We're big Men Talk. That's what we do. We talk because we understand that talking is what helps us. So talking helps to empty us so we can be filled again. Talking lets others know what is on our mind. And so when we talk, we find solutions to whatever we talk about. We talk about our challenges, our fears. We talk about our victories. We talk about relationships. We talk about just about everything that men talk about. And we've created that time and place and space here on this station for men. And today is no different. My co-host Huey Cuffie, I've not seen him as yet. He's on, yes, okay. I understand that Huey is on. Huey, are you there? Good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening, Professor. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. By God's grace.
Good to know.
Missed you last week,
but it's good to have you back this week.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I was on submission, and I think I need a little break. What I realized is that around this time in August, I tend to take a break, and I think it's coming up with that time, and then my daughter's in the country. So
I need to pick it down or take it off. Oh, sorry.
I'm chatting with you
and somebody in studio at the same time. You know the technology, Huey. You know what goes on with the technology.
I know you're advanced in the technology.
Well, I'm getting there. Anyway, any shout-outs quickly?
And it's a special shout out to all the volunteers and all the workers on the front line in terms of the vaccination drive. I just want to express my appreciation for the work that they're doing and continue to help to get Trinidad and Tobago safe in terms of, the numerous responses. Notwithstanding that there are many views on it, I still think that, it's very commendable that we have, our healthcare workers trying their best to get Trinidad and Tobago safe. But again, our trust is in the Lord. Ultimately, our hope is in Him bringing this to an end. But again, thank you to all the workers out there.
Yes, indeed. And so we wanted to bring our guests into play right now. George is not here today. So let me introduce our guest. I have a little short bio on him here. Let me see if I can.
Before you continue, Professor, I don't know. Maybe you could talk to the technical guys. I kind of hear your voice twice. I mean, I know you have an awesome presence.
Yeah, I know. I think it's me. I think my device.
My device.
Or maybe I like to hear my own voice.
Well, I didn't want to go there. Right?
So what I will do, I will log off of my device. I think. So you alone would not be able to see me anyway. All right. And let me just see what I can do here. Oh yeah. One of these days, I'll get it right. One of these days. Okay, here we go. Okay, is that better? All right, you're not hearing me anymore twice. Okay, so here we go. Jerome Alexander is our guest today. He's a part of a global organization called fightthenewdrug and is currently working with the Family Life Commission on the issue of pornography and its effects in Trinidad and Tobago. With a passion for helping and seeing others win in all areas of life, he works closely mentoring a group of adults to helping them in their personal struggle with pornography. Fight the New Drug is a dynamic and exciting grassroots organization mobilizing youths and young adults with tools for fighting the destructive effects of porn in our culture. Jerome has presented to several youth groups and symposium and is the regional ambassador of the Caribbean for Fight the New Drug. He also featured on television interviews and live radio talk shows. He continues to travel across the world, raising the awareness of pornography's effects. He strongly believes that awareness through education and God's grace are the most powerful weapons at our disposal to combat the influence of porn in our society, with a passion for helping and seeing others win in all areas of life. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to Men Talk for the very first time Mr. Jerome Alexander. Jerome, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Professor. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening, Mr. Cuffie. It's a pleasure to be in the presence of you gentlemen this evening.
Likewise.
Well, it's good to have you here. Now, this issue of porn that we're going to talk about this evening is an issue that affects not just Trinidad and Tobago. I guess it's a global thing. And so it's something that we need to talk about. But before we actually get into the issue, just tell us about Fight the New Drug, that organization that you belong to, Jerome.
Well, Fight the New Drug is a non-profit, non-religious, non-legislative organization based in the United States of America. It's been in existence for 10 plus years, starting back in 2010. And basically our sole mission and goal is to educate individuals on the harmful effects of pornography using science, facts, and personal testimonies. We are a non-religious organization because the issue of pornography affects everyone, regardless of their belief, their country, their economic status in life. And we took that neutral standpoint, just bringing forward the facts, the scientific facts, statistics that individuals can view that most individuals, for some reason or another, they are not aware of. We are not seeking to ban pornography. Our main goal really is to provide individuals with the information and allow them to make an informed decision on whether or not they want this to be part of their life. So that's our mission, that's our goal, that's our drive really, just to drive home to individuals to consider before consuming.
Wonderful. And so one of the things I want to start with up front, and I think I had asked you this question before off the air when we were talking the other day. Can you tell, is there a way to tell someone who is maybe hooked on porn or who watches porn? Because, for example, someone hooked on drugs, there are signs, maybe glassy-eyed, maybe they slurred speech or whatever it is, all right? There are signs that you can tell. But someone who is addicted to porn or who watches a lot of porn, is there any sort of behavioral difference or change? Is there anything that is recognizable that we can look and say, something is wrong with this person?
I think it is challenging. It's almost very difficult for you to just look at a person and say, okay, I know he has a problem. Mm-hmm. One of the things I have noticed in my years of speaking with individuals and doing research is that you can tell when a person may have a tendency towards pornographic videos and viewing of it on a constant basis by listening to their speech. Scripture says that out of the mouth, the heart speaks, right? Mm-hmm. And we know that the heart is filled through two ways, through your eye gate and through your ear gate. Therefore, the things that you look at on a consistent basis, the things that you hear, they form what is in your heart, and that is known by what you speak. So very often, even in a business setting or amongst friends, you may have rude jokes, you may have crude comments, very sexist statements being made. That is one of the signs I think you can tell of what a person may have a natural proclivity towards. Outside of that, it is a little more, I think intuition plays a big part. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if you see a person like always on their phone, they're isolated, they're very impatient, very, isolated by themselves most of all, is something that you can definitely look into as a possible means of, what are they doing in their pastime.
Okay, great. Now, is there an age group, a particular age group, that we can look at in terms of people who look at porn? Is it, from teenagers up, or do you have younger than that? What is the age group?
Right. Well, back in 2015, right, the statistics show that the average age of exposure to pornography was 11 years old. Right. We're in 2021, and that age has decreased. It's now 8 years old. Wow. At Fight the New Drug, one of the things that we receive on a weekly basis is hundreds of emails, some people all over the world, reaching out to us about their struggle, seeking help. We've had husbands, we've had wives reach out to us about the negative impact that they have. And we have seen that their children as young as 2 years old being exposed to pornography.
2 years old.
So there's no specific age group, and it's getting younger and younger because the access to pornography is so unanimous right now. It is so easily affordable. Once you have a smartphone and internet access, you have 24 hours, 365 access to non-stop hardcore pornography right at the click of a button. Wow. So an individual no longer have to go very far to gain access to it. Back in the 90s, it was something that was a little more difficult to access. But now with the introduction of the internet, that has just thrown the gates open. So now anyone has been exposed to pornography. Scientists, sociologists, and psychologists are saying now that it's not a matter of if you will be exposed to pornography, but when. Because it is so common and it's everywhere. The makers of pornography are actually finding ways to expose their material, expose their content to people. You have individuals whose job it is to get individuals hooked on things like pornography. So when your paycheck is based off on people making clicks to a particular website, you see now that you don't have to go looking for it. It comes and finds you.
Wow. You know, when I was growing up, pornography, well, was found in books, you know, Playboy and that sort of thing. So you'd hide and to read a Playboy. But you're saying that they have access, even little children have access to pornography now, and that is amazing. So tell us a little bit about Fight the New Drug, what you all do in terms of bringing awareness, some of the challenges and some of the issues that you have come up with.
So one of the issues I will share that we face on a constant basis is the difference in view of pornography. So we have the parents whose view and concept of pornography is absolutely different to what the children's view of pornography is, because parents would have been exposed to pornography or know of its existence, like you just mentioned in Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler magazines. When you speak to the average 15-year-old today about pornography, you are talking about the different genres of pornography that's existing right now, right? So in the last 10 years, there has been an increase, an exponential increase in 4 types of pornography, different genres. Those genres are violent porn, gore porn, child porn, and hentai porn. Hentai is more animation type of porn, right? So we've seen the demand for these and the production of these expand. So when you have a 15-year-old looking at this, and let's just say the parents are aware, okay, he has to get some sort of counseling, they're thinking that their child is looking at Playboy, which is not that bad, you know. So we have that constant difficulty in trying to get parents to understand that what you are accustomed to, what you think pornography is, it's nowhere near that right now. So it has shifted. So there's a new landscape of pornography. And one of the ways that, we really try to educate people through our presentation, which is of course age-oriented, is by showing how pornography affects 3 areas. That is the brain, that's the individual who is viewing, consuming pornography. Then we look at relationships, how it affects the relationships between boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, and even just general relationships that you may have with your family members and your friends. And then last but not least, we look at how pornography affects the world, society, your community, your country, right? Because ever so often I hear the argument, well, I look at porn, and I'm a big man, I pay my own bill, it's my own phone, I'm not hating anyone. But that is the furthest thing from the truth when you realize that pornography at the end of the day is business, right? And so if there is a huge demand for something which is based on the number of clicks that individuals click on, they are going to find a way to supply that. Pornography is a $97 billion a year industry. Wow. That's more than the NFL, the NBA, and the Major League Baseball combined together. The pornographic industry, they produce 12,000 videos a year. Hollywood does 1,200. So that's the vast difference that we have here. And here we have a market that is driven by youth. Their goal is youth. And we are trying to educate parents to let them know that what you are thinking of that your children is exposed to, it's nothing like that, right? So we try to get them on par with what is happening right now because they are with their children more than we are. And we want to help them to journey this because this is something that mankind has never faced before. We have never dealt with this. And I think with the whole pandemic that we're going through with COVID-19, we have not seen yet the full effects of COVID-19. I mean, right now it's already a disaster with the amount of lives that we're losing, the inconvenience of people losing their jobs, being at home. It's just a whole change in life, right? Because of this, back in last year, March of last year, one of the top porn sites, they saw an increase in traffic to their websites because a lot of people were at home and everything has now been shifted to the internet. So the COVID-19 stay-at-home order has now opened wide the demand for pornography. Wow. And this is something that we wouldn't fully see the effects of it maybe 10, 15 years down the line. Yeah. And what we are doing right now is we need to educate people to make a conscious decision as to what it is you're viewing. So by educating them on the effects that it will have on themselves, also the impact it will have on their future relationships, and also the impact it has on society, we see that human trafficking is a big issue, not just worldwide, but here in Trinidad. And pornography is directly related to human trafficking. One of the things that we have discovered, what we do in Fight the New Drug, we have interviews ever so often with men and women who have been rescued from human trafficking rings. And 90% of them said that pornography was made of them when they were in the life. So this is what we want individuals to understand and make a decision, their own decision as to whether or not this is something that Hollywood is selling as pure adult entertainment, or this is something that you do not want to be part of.
Indeed. 6:50 is the time, people. You listen to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. And this, we're speaking to Jerome Alexander, Fight the New Drug. And let me just say, let me put in a plug here. Jerome was introduced to me by Huey, by a mutual friend of ours, Miss Nicole Larson, and I promised to give her the pips.
Give her the pips.
Yes. Yeah, Nicole Larson is the one who introduced Jerome to us here. Nice. So Nicole, if you're listening, thank you so much, my dear. We take a short break. It's sponsored, Men Talk is sponsored by the Feet Lady. Ayana Tony.
Hey, David, what you know, boy? How you looking spritey so? Just the other day you complaining to me about back pain, chest pain, your foot swell up, circulation, all kind of thing. What you take for that, boy?
Jamal, boy, I went by the Feet Lady, and not just me, I carry the family too. Boy, the family I straight arthritis, kidney problem, diabetes, circulation, acid reflux. You call all of them just now. I had a pinch nerve too, and a cousin with lupus. And boy, the Feet Lady help you with all of that. And Naya Tony, boy, she's no joke. She even helping you if you had a stroke. Call she today, boy. Don't make joke. Call Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady of Reflexology, today at 478-7416.
Pornography. Why are so many people hooked on it, including Christian men? Are there any harmful effects from watching porn? Is there any hope for those who are addicted? How do we deal with it? This is the topic of discussion on Men Talk, Monday 16th August at 6:30 p.m. You're invited to join me, Noel Professor Richards, my co-host Huey Cuffie, George, and our guest Jerome Alexander of the global organization Fight the New Drug. Let's get the facts. Let's tackle the issue of porn addiction. It's Porn Talk on Men Talk, Monday 16th August, 6:30 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise.
You can now see the Men Talk team live on Facebook at Isaac the Promise and YouTube on FBN TV. Sponsored by Dr. Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady at Anaya Health and Wellness Center. Call 360-5166 or 478-7416.
That's right, folks. You can check us out on YouTube, FBN TV, and of course on Facebook, Isaac the Promise, so you can view as well as listen to what is happening. So Huey, feel free to jump in at any time. Question, comments that you have. Yeah?
Yeah, again. Well, while we were listening to Jerome speak, I just went on their website. So, definitely a treasure trove of information. fightthenewdrug.org. Jerome, you were just talking, quickly about the various areas that pornography can impact people. I just wanted to just expand on that, like you mentioned, relationships. You mentioned the world at large. But what are, just in some of those things that basically that you'll have seen that it impacts people negatively? How it impacts people negatively?
So that's a fantastic question. I mean, I want to start with the relationship side of it, right? Because that is one of the areas I think that I try to spend more time on, because a lot of people, they trip up in that area thinking that, you know, if I view porn, once I get married, I will stop. And based off of research, what we have seen is that individuals who have been viewing pornography, whether it's casual, once a week, twice a week, once every other day, or something that is consistent, we have seen that there is a false expectation when you're in relationships. Individuals who are viewing pornography tend to be more critical of their partner's appearance. And that's because when you're viewing pornography, the women and men in pornography are made to look forever young. And when you're viewing pornography, you're conditioning your mind to expect this from your partner. We are all humans. We have flaws, you have marks and stuff on our skins, you have bubbles, as we would call them, you know, and you don't see that. So then you find the verbal abuse is more prevalent, right? You also have issues like erectile dysfunction. As a matter of fact, one of the new terms coined in psychology is called porn-induced erectile dysfunction. And erectile dysfunction here is not just your inability to gain an erection, but your inability to maintain an erection. This also adds frustration into a marriage as well. And you find individuals being unable to get an erection because they've been viewing so much pornography, right? They also, research has shown that individuals are less willing to stay in a relationship. As a matter of fact, for married couples that are viewing pornography, their chances of divorce are 50 times more than those who do not view pornography. So we have a whole, you know, kaleidoscope of different negative impacts. One of the things that I know married couples like to do is, like, you know, they want to spice up the bedroom, right? So they may go to a psychologist, and unfortunately there are psychologists who believe that pornography is a great addition to the marriage bed. And they would suggest that. And these are what these effects, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, false expectation in your relationship, less willing to stay, less committed. All of these are what you open up your relationship to. In addition to that, one of the research that I found very interesting was conducted by Dr. Anna Bridges from the University of Arkansas, and she collaborated with some individuals from NYU. And they did a study, a very technical study, where they took the top 25 porn rented videos and the top 25 sold porn videos, and they trained individuals to code each scene, code them in terms of what physical aggression or what physical action was exhibited. And interestingly enough, at the end of that study, they found that 88% of the time, there was physical aggression from one person to another. Usually, it was a man towards the woman. But even more interesting to that, Professor, is that 95% of the time when a woman was hit, she responded with pleasure, or she had no response at all. So what that is training 15, 16, 10, 11-year-old that are viewing these things is that as a man, this is how I'm supposed to treat a woman. And for women that are also viewing, it shows that this is how I am supposed to be treated. So you go into a relationship with that mindset, and that's just a recipe for disaster right there. And that's what we are facing right now. And I want to be clear about this. We at Fight the New Drug are not about shaming people or making individuals feel bad, because that does not help. In today's world, individuals don't go looking for porn. Many of the cases that we have come across are young children being exposed to porn unintentionally. But when they're exposed to it, they have no understanding as to what to do with this heavy sort of information. There's no one to turn to, there's no one to talk. They feel guilty, they feel ashamed, at the same time they're excited. So they don't know what to do with this type of emotion, and usually they keep it a secret, and that's when it just manifests into so many destructive behaviors and tendencies.
Jerome, you mentioned that last part there, because you said earlier on that children as early as 2 or 3 being exposed to it. But at that stage, and even a little older, I think we go in now into the realm of child sexual abuse in terms of, because I suppose the whole aspect of ignorance, people might think ignorance is an excuse, but persons, adults, exposing children to that is an issue that actually where the law can get involved, yes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are many cases where I know of one case where I believe it was an older brother was looking at pornography and left it in the DVD player. Younger brother went, turned on television to look at cartoons or something, and then boom, just like that, full exposure. So you have many cases like that happening, and that's where we really need to take hold.
Yeah.
6:59.
That last thing you mentioned the impact on the wider world. You even mentioned that there are professionals who are actually seeing it as a tool to recommend into relationships. How do you? I suppose like what I'm trying to get at is if there is this mindset even at a professional level concerning that, what should people understand that even if professionals view this, how should they approach that? Because then they will say, well, if the professional is recommending it, then it must be okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what we basically recommend something that is so simple and so common, and that's just conversation. Just having a conversation with your spouse about how you're feeling in the moment, as opposed to going out to try and spice up the bedroom by looking at what other people are doing. To view someone actually having sex is so unnatural. And all we recommend is just communication, being open with your spouse about how you truly feel and where you are at, and then you guys being creative from there. That eliminates the need for wanting to, go the other route, which is viewing other people and trying to try different things, which then opens up different fantasies, different fetishes, and is like opening a can of worms when you go down that road.
Yeah. Folks, it's 1 minute after 7. You're listening to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise, sponsored by the Feet Lady, Ayanna Tony. We're talking to Jerome Alexander of the organization Fight the New Drug. We'll be opening up the lines in just a couple of minutes from now. But gentlemen, Jerome, forgive my ignorance, but child pornography, and I have to say I'm ignorant to it because I haven't really delved into it in terms of information. But child pornography, we're talking about children doing things that adults do, children having sex. What ages are we talking about in terms of child pornography? Because I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. Why would adults, enjoy seeing children having sex? Is it that there's a psychological something? As I said, forgive me for not understanding, not knowing. All right, my ignorance in this area. Talk to me.
I mean, that is one of the darker sides of pornography world. It's something that I think we as a people, we don't want to look at because it's so bad. And when you think of child porn, there's an age category that you classify a person as child, anybody under the age of 16, and then it varies depending on the country and the state, if it's in the United States, right? But we have seen gross situations happening. I mean, it's not just children being intimate with other children, but it's adults being intimate with children. And I don't know if I have the liberty to express or talk about a particular situation I come across, but let me just say there are pornographic videos of children with the umbilical cord still attached.
What?
That's how dark this world is. And it's not something that people talk about a lot. And, some people say, well, I won't look at that. That's not something that I want to be part of. But pornography, what most people don't understand, it's a progression. You don't start there initially. You're repelled by it. but get to that point after just wanting more and more and more. And so the child porn, which is one of the genres we have seen, increased in the last decade, is something that it's in high demand. There are people wanting to see more and more of this. And so, Professor, it's not nice. It is not something that is talked a lot about, but it is real, it is happening, and we really need to educate children about what is happening, not on the dark side, but just educating them enough so that they know where this can lead if I continue on this path.
Before we open up the lines, I just want to ask a follow-up question to that. These children that are involved in pornography, is it voluntary? Is it a case of human trafficking? Is it that their parents are part of this? Explain to me.
Yeah, it's never, we have never had a case of a child saying, I wanted to be part of this. In many cases, in countries like Brazil and even in Indonesia, in the Far East, parents, they sell their children into this they call it survival sex. So they're poor as abject poverty, and the only way they can see to provide for themselves or for their children is to sell their bodies. So we have parents using children and selling them into prostitution, and there are people from many people have been caught in anti-human trafficking rings, traveling from the US to places in the Far East and to South America to pay for little children. And one of the things that most people are unaware of, we think that when we see the movie Taken, we think that, there's no William Nielsen in real life. There's no superhero there. Many of these stories go untold. And one thing I think a lot of people are not aware of is that we think it's only females that are abused. But 45% of children in human trafficking ring are little boys. And there's a growing demand for boys. And it's a lot of shame because as a man, you don't think that type of thing will happen to you. But there's a huge demand for that as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I just quickly want to say, Professor, as you asked a question about voluntary, by definition of being a child, that doesn't come into the picture. At the end of the day, I think that's something that we have to be mindful of, is that a child doesn't really have the full faculties to make an informed decision. And therefore, when you find children involved, and we might find ourselves, wanting to blame the child for that we have to be mindful of that. So children basically don't have the full faculties to make informed decisions, even if quote unquote they may say, and therefore that's why the law would protect children from that, and even as Jerome and others are doing, and we have to do, is ready to educate people. Look, that is something that we have to guard against. But I would quickly say that just as dangerous, and even as Jerome mentioned it, is the quote-unquote accidental bumping into, your friends in school, introducing it to things. And I mean, it was bad in my time, but I didn't have cell phone in my time. So you can imagine the proliferation of it, where you, as I said, the casual encounters that end up being now very serious, progressions or digressions into it as well.
Yeah. 7:07 is the time. You're listening to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM. The Promise, sponsored by the Feet Lady and Ayana Tony. We want to open up the lines to take your calls. 628-1981. 628, I'm not sure if the 622 number is working as yet, but 628-1981 is the number to call. You have a question, you have a comment based on what you've heard, please feel free to call us now. 628-1981. You could also send ladies, I didn't say that at the beginning, for those who are new, ladies, you don't take calls from ladies on Men Talk, but you can, of course, send your WhatsApp message, not a voice note, but a text message to 275-1981. That's to the ladies, 275-1981. Men, you can call us at 628-1981. The lines are now open. Let's hear from you today based on the discussion that we've been having so far on pornography.
We got a story for you.
And well, while we wait on the call, we want to continue our discussion. You know, go ahead, Jerome.
If I might add, you know, one of the things that I have been pouring my heart out when I do presentations is specifically for young girls and for women, because many times when I stand in front of a group of women or audience that is mixed, I see mentally where women, they turn off mentally from the presentation because they think, oh, porn, that's a guy issue, right? And nothing could be further from the truth, because every time I ask the question, how many of you in here would like to have a family of your own, be married one day? The majority, 95% of women raise their hand. The others are a little undecided, but 95% of them raise their hand. And the thing is that they want to be married to a man, obviously. And most of the guys are having a strong addiction, compulsive habit towards pornography. So you get into a relationship with a young man, because remember, it's very difficult for you to tell if somebody's addicted to it. And you're into this relationship 5-6 years down the line, and then the habits start showing up. What happens then? So I always plead to women, especially, please pay attention to the harmful effects of this, because this can affect you.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a call. Hello, good evening. You are on the air.
Yes, good afternoon.
Go ahead, sir.
You know, I was just want to share something that I try to understand when you look at children and this world we're living in, this divorce is concerned, right? Most of the time, when a woman divorces her husband or husband divorces his wife, and they have children, most of the time the children is with the wife, right? Sometimes the wife might move on with somebody else. And when you don't have a father in your house and you see somebody else, whether it's a stranger, whether you call him a stepfather, or however you might look at him, you will always be wanting to know what is doing to your mother. So you're pleasing to see anything, any move that this person making with your mother. And sometimes, if you have a mother too busy trying to get involved
before you continue, are you talking on the subject that we're talking about today, because we're talking about pornography?
Yes, well, right, because remember, you're talking about pornography. Well, you're talking about exposure to it, because remember, when you listen to see what is going on with your mother and this person, that's like this feeling, these will come in. You're having an idea from it at home. I'm just trying a point, you know, I'm yet to be corrected.
Okay, so you're making the point that pornography, someone gets divorced and is involved with somebody else, and that is what births pornography in some people because of what they see, or is that what you're saying?
Yes, because sometimes I will try you people to say, my room is next person, no matter my father.
Okay.
You might be people to see what is taking place, and sometimes something is really taking place.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. 628-1981 is the number to call. 628-1981. We still have some time to take your calls. And of course, ladies, you can WhatsApp us at 275-1981. Let me see. I have one here. Someone asked, how badly does porn affect someone's brain? How badly does porn affect someone's brain? Jerome?
Well, I'm glad I asked that question. That's a great question. So, pornography, as we call it, the new drug, right? When you look at pornography, it enters through your eyes, right? And it triggers a release of chemicals in your brain. Chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, oxytocin. I know this is not a science class, but some of you might have been familiar with terms like that. So these chemicals, when released, are released in a very high amount, right? Putting you in a very euphoric state. What your brain does at that is that it remembers that feeling, so that it makes you want to come back for more because the feeling is so good. These same chemicals are the same chemicals that are released when a person does drugs or drink alcohol, right? Through brain scan, we realize that these are the same chemicals that are released. What happens is that after a period of time of a person looking at pornography, the same feeling they got the first time, they no longer have that maybe 3 or 6 weeks later. So what happens is that they now need to look at pornography longer more often and usually more hardcore version for what they first saw, because their brain now is adjusting to the release of these chemicals. It's now like numb. So in order for you to feel high, you need more of the same thing that you first had. And that's how addiction starts. And that's the effect that you have with people now hiding it, concealing it, looking at it more often. And this now leads to different genres of pornography that can now lead to, child porn, gay porn, sadomasochistic type of porn. All of these things can happen afterwards.
628-1981 is the number to call. 628-1981. We want to hear from you. What is your question? Or if you have a comment to make, a question or comment to make based on what you've heard so far. We have Jerome Alexander in studio. We have Huey Cuffie, my co-host. George is not here today. And so we are waiting to hear your call. In the meantime, Jerome, you were talking about the different categories of porn. Child porn is one. You called some others. Could you just repeat and give us an idea?
Yeah, so sure, no problem. Violent type of pornography has been increased. This is one of the high demand type of pornography, and we base the type of pornography that's increasing based off of the number of clicks that a person or country or society is having on a particular video. Then there's gore porn, which you can think, guts and gore, so there's blood and stuff involved in that as well.
Blood?
Child porn, as I mentioned, and then, and then...
forgive my ignorance, but let's go back. So you're saying there's blood involved in pornography, and that's something people want to see and to be a part of? Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, even in my research, there are certain research that I can't do because of the addictive nature of pornography, right? So, I take a chance by mentioning these types of pornography because these things can tend to, cause curiosity. I do not recommend you try to find out any stats on these things.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
I hear. And that's why I say forgive my ignorance, because I am one who would not go venturing to find out, to get information on these things as to what they mean and what is done and all of that. And that's not me. So that's why I said I'm ignorant in this area. No. But I suppose it's something that needs to be done. Huey, I want to bring you in here. In terms of, have you ever done any kind of research or anything on porn? Have you ever gone into it to, because I know your wife is a psychologist, so she would deal with people who have different issues. But for yourself,
counselor, not a psychologist.
Well, counselor, sorry. But for yourself, have you ever maybe delved into it in terms of finding or getting information and that sort of thing, or have you come across people who have had those challenges?
Yeah, there's information in a lot of clearinghouses. I would have gotten information. Unfortunately, I would have experienced it from young. So I know, the as I said, the casual encounters that you have to encounter. Mm-hmm. So, but as to Jerome's friend, I already appreciate that. That is not an area that's want to be doing research in, one untrained or even casually. It is like a drug. And, there are chemicals being released and whatnot. And you could get trapped into it. So I think a lot of people, they use the quote-unquote research angle that this is what they're doing. But then it's another setup. It's another trap. So, but the points that he has made in terms of the impact that it is having, I know one thing that, for example, especially in relationships, when you find, for example, married couples not having sex for an extended point of time, they start to ask questions, as to why that is so. And even in terms of not just married couples, but persons who are say in a relationship but they're not yet married and they're just waiting. And you wonder what is really happening. And that is something that we have discussed in terms of whether it is that there are other options out there. That persons basically are finding needs that are satisfied, their needs being satisfied through these options, including pornography, as opposed to, having those genuine desires being met, through marriage. So those are some of the things that we have to be mindful of in terms of the impact that it can have on your marriage, on your relationship. But for years now, there are various organizations. I mean, I'm happy to be exposed to Jerome's organization, but there have been other organizations. I know persons like Steve Atterburn, and they, would have, for example, Every Man's Battle, those series, those books. Ted Roberts as well with his books, Pure Desire. There are a lot of resources out there that basically would help you to do that. And I think I'll just say this to kind of go back to Jerome in terms of how some of the ways that people who would have been struggling with pornography, how can they actually go on a road to recovery, Jerome? Yeah. But I think one of the things is that the curiosity part of what you're seeing, Noel, is that, as you're saying, curiosity kills the cat, right? And I think, it's really what you're looking for. And you have to be careful that you're actually going into a zone that is not really designed to help you, but to pull you down. So I think you want to caution people, especially Google, right? People Googling things. You have to be careful that, you find yourself in a situation where you could be really exposed to things. And the last thing I want to say quickly as well, if you're using the metaphor of a drug in terms of pornography being a new drug, let's bear in mind there are also gateways. And I think one of the big challenges, for me I have, is that you're talking pornography, but you don't have to go pornography. You have shows, right? Basic shows that actually, television, Netflix and all of, that are pushing the boundaries, right? And therefore even that could trigger and cause you to go in a particular direction. So I think that is something that, we have to be mindful of as well. So that you're saying, like, we talk about, cocaine and things, but then there are these, gateway drugs that lead to that. I think that as well, Jerome, is something that we just have to be mindful of in terms of how these, little expressions, there are things, for example, many years ago, a show would not show, right? A show today, 20 years ago, might have been rated R. Now it's always like PG-13. Yeah. So, it's just those dynamics. It's such a... I personally feel it for people and for myself also. You have to navigate this maze, in terms of, short of being blind, you have to come to terms with the fact that there are these, challenges there. So coming back to the question I was going to ask you now is, what are some of the things that you'll do in terms of trying to help people on the road to recovery?
Thanks for that question. I think, the road to recovery looks different for everyone. First of all, we want to get down beyond the surface, right? Why are you looking at porn? Like, what are you searching for when you're looking at it? And what we've discovered is that individuals that are looking at pornography, there is an emotional need that has not been met. Most of the time, through mental health counselors and psychologists that I have spoken to, there has been childhood trauma that has happened in their youth from foundation that was not dealt with. And so in order to navigate life or to find a way to kind of assuage these difficult feelings and emotions, they use porn as a sort of escape to sort of like a crutch stick through these difficult emotions, right? And so when an individual, the first step, like in any other addiction, the first thing is that a person must admit that they have an issue, that they see what this is doing to their behavior, to their marriage, to the people around them, to their jobs, to their life, and want that help, because you cannot help someone unless they see that as an issue. Once that has been established, then we can look at what really are you trying to satisfy. And we've discovered several reasons why people go to pornography. When you've been rejected, when you're under stress, when you have problems in marriage, sometimes you're angry, purposelessness is one of the reasons. These are driving factors that drive people to pornography. What happens when, a married couple goes to bed and the husband wants to be intimate with his wife and she does not want to be? Does he roll over and go to pornography, as most people have been told that is what the best thing that you can do? So we really get down to the nitty-gritty of it. And it's not just surface like, oh, I'm feeling, in the mood, there is always something that drives a person to go back to it. And through working it out with a mental health counselor or a psychologist, this is where professional help needs to come in. Unfortunately, most men are not willing to come forward because it requires you being vulnerable. And society, again, has painted the picture to men and has set a mindset that you don't talk about emotions. Big men don't cry. Why are you crying? You don't show emotions. And unfortunately, men use pornography as catharsis through all of these negative emotions that they're feeling to vent. And that is where we need to face the real monster here, is they have to go back to the issues that have been established in your life and work through those before moving forward. As you mentioned, Hugh, you talked about the triggers in movies, different sex scenes. Just to advertise a car wash or a new beer is a half-naked woman on the screen, because we know that sex sells and men are motivated by what they see. So in working with an individual, helping them to understand what their triggers are, how they found themselves there, understanding that you're not a bad person for being stuck in this place. We don't want to shame anybody or make them feel bad. Most people are exposed to this by accident, but it's helping them to navigate through these things by being vulnerable, to speak about how they truly feel on the inside. That is when the work begins to happen. We could do all the scientific research, but it's only by the grace of God and nothing else that I see that individuals can find freedom from this diabolical tool that the enemy is using and wielding at will.
Indeed. Well, we're almost out of time, folks. 6281981, 6281991. Someone says, what are your recommendations to deal with this within a marriage? I suppose maybe that's what you just talked about. But I want to ask, though, what about, we talk about marriage, but what about young people who are addicted to porn? How can a parent handle this? Do I look for a counselor, a professional person? Can I deal with it as a parent? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the age of the person and their length of exposure to pornography. So it's like a case-by-case basis. Just thinking about it generally, we have Fight the New Drug create an app. It's called Fortify. It's free to download in the App Store or Google Play. And that app has been put together scientifically to help individuals with different videos. There's a battle tracker. There's a community where they can find support that may help them through that. If a person has been exposed to pornography for a longer period of time, and then the type of pornography that they've been exposed to, this is where professional help will need to come in. And I highly recommend different mental health counselors and psychologists that are very well trained professionally to assist a person in this. But the younger that we can point out a person having an issue with porn, the better. The older they are, it's the more work that have to go into it. There are several authors who have written amazing books for individuals to get a better understanding and navigate themselves through these choppy waters. There's a book written by Jay Stringer, who's a mental health counselor. That book is called Unwanted. Dr. Eddie Caparucci wrote a book especially for Christian men who are struggling with pornography called Removing Your Shame Cycle, because he discovered as a psychologist that a lot of believers, Christian men, were struggling with pornography and they were ending up in this shame cycle where they would know what they're doing is wrong. They look at pornography and then they go back, and it's just a back and forth. So he wrote a book that's an excellent book that I highly recommend for individuals to go to. But you definitely would need help, because sometimes we get ourselves into trouble, but we need help to get out. And this is one of those areas.
And it's 7:28. We're out of time today. Jerome, we want to say thank you so much for sharing with us. There's still some questions coming in, and maybe we could have a follow-up to this. We'll talk about it off here to see, if we can, because the phone line is still going as well. But we are out of time, so we're gonna have to put this off for another time. Maybe next week if you're available. But we'll talk about that. But I just want to give you make some closing remarks, whatever you want to say to the men out there at this time.
Guys, it is not bad that you where you are. The most important thing is to acknowledge where you are and to seek the help. And there is help. There is hope. There is nothing that the blood of Christ cannot redeem. So there is hope. You just have to want it, and it is there.
Amen. Huey? Huey? I wonder if Huey's hearing me.
Yeah, I'm now hearing you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, I was wondering. Well, I just want to say thank you, Jerome, for really sharing a very informative, but even as you said again, a very hopeful message in terms of being able to deal with this new drug. And again, I just want to encourage persons, if you're interested, to go. One website definitely we want to recommend is fightthenewdrug.org. All right, so you could go on it, and as I said, I've been on it just tonight, and there's a lot of information. And even the books that Jerome has recommended that we could look at. So again, thanks a lot, Jerome, for the work that you're doing and even being on the program. And as Professor mentioned, hope to have you soon again.
Yes.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Thank you, Jerome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Folks, this is the end of Men Talk for today. We want to say thank you so much for listening and for being part of the program. Remember, you can catch us again on YouTube. Pull it up on YouTube and look at it again. For those of you, some of you were asking, not just this program, but previous programs as well, I believe, because someone was asking about the past two programs. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies, for not calling. Thank you so much. And we'll be back again next week at the same time, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 for Men Talk. And hopefully we'll be able to continue with this conversation. But until then, it's bye-bye for now.
It's about Jesus, who he is and what he can do and where he's been and how strong he is and how able he is.
Hey, David, what you now, boy? How you looking spritey so? Just the other day you complaining to me about back pain, chest pain, your foot swell up, circulation, all kind of thing. What you take for that, boy?
Jamal, boy, I went by the feet lady, and not just me. I carry the family too. Boy, the family has straight arthritis, kidney problem, diabetes, circulation, acid reflux. You call all of them just now. I had a pinched nerve too, and a cousin with lupus. And boy, the feet lady help you with all of that. And Naya Tony, boy, she's no joke. She even helping you if you had a stroke. Call she today, boy. Don't make joke. Call Naya Tony, the feet lady of reflexology, today at 478